I've been playing Starfield since release, and I was one of the few people out there who enjoyed it at the start, but as time went on, the flaws became more and more apparent. I do have some strong views on this game, which may cause some hate, but what you're about to see is just my honest thoughts. It's now 2024. Has the so-called amazing open world experience improved at all? This may surprise you. Let's break it down and find out. Character models. So firstly, I've not seen a massive amount of people mention this. Why does the character models look so horrific? It's something you'd see in a freak show. I don't think I've ever seen worse looking NPCs than this. The overall details are poor, and it reminds me of the Xbox 360 visuals. The actual character models are just hideous to look at. It's like looking at your dog's hemorrhoid infested arse for too long. Games in 2024 shouldn't look like this, and you could argue the NPCs on the Xbox 360 looked better back in the day. NPCs also give you this weird gormless look. It's almost like they know they smell the cat piss but hope you don't notice, so they give you this weird guilty look. Fix the damn visuals on these NPCs for Christ's sake. It takes you out of the game when you see the state of these character models. How can you not be distracted by this? Since release, this has not been improved, which is massively disappointing. Dumb NPCs. Oh god, this is going to shock you. If you aim your gun at any NPC in this game, they couldn't give a dick. No reaction whatsoever. They literally see it as you handing them a Freddo. It's a shitty chocolate, so there's no reaction whatsoever. You then shoot your gun millimeters from their bastard head, and once again, no reaction at all.
Hope life is treating you well.
This is shocking. One of the absolute bare bone functions of any open world game should be the NPCs in the world react to almost being twatted. Even games generations ago had this feature. How is this not a thing? It's embarrassing, and it ruins any immersion the game tries to create, knowing you can run around shooting with no reactions at all. It's the minor details that make an open world game great, and this is bare bones. When you whip out a gun, NPCs should at least react and run away, but no. This still hasn't been addressed. This is something they can change pretty easily. It's not rocket science. It's hard for this open world to feel alive when the NPCs are dumber than a doornail. But it gets even worse. Have you ever seen how the old Bill reacts if you cause some grief on a planet? You'll wish you hadn't. Guards and security are so dumb it's unreal, and just enemies in general are some of the dumbest AI I've ever seen. Brain dead is an understatement. I mean, you've got AI in Red Dead which go to work and have complex walk paths, and then you have Starfield AI which can't even find a place to find cover. Not only is enemy AI bad and dumb, have you ever just watched the NPCs in the world? For some reason, you've got hundreds of these briefcase wankers walking around. What the hell is all that about? And what's in them? Probably the finger from Bethesda. Just by looking at them, you can tell that the NPCs are completely lifeless and have less brain power than my nan's bed slats. It's sad because it takes you out of the game. AI should have been more of a focus. It's so important with world building and also for gunfight and combat situations, which is a huge chunk of the game. And for those who say they focus more on making hundreds of detailed planets instead, well, let's dive into that next. Lifeless planets. On the surface, the sound of being able to land on hundreds of planets sounds amazing. It certainly gave me a rod on to begin with, but when you dig deeper into what this means, it becomes another reason the open world sucks. Yes, there are hundreds of planets, which is really cool, but they are mostly empty and boring. The main ones you visit on a regular basis are actually quite decent, don't get me wrong, apart from sitting through loading screens all the time when you access interiors, but don't worry, I'm not not going to bore you with the loading screen rant, but as soon as you start exploring the other planets in the game, you soon realise there isn't really much to be excited about, as they do feel rather empty, and there is boundaries too. You cannot just explore the whole planet. Thanks to this YouTuber on screen who went through the torture of running about for ages to see how much of the planet is explorable, eventually there is a limit. But what makes it worse is the fact that you won't want to explore planets for too long, as you have to run and jump all the time. There are no transport vehicles. You are required to sprint and jump when travelling around planets, and it's so dumb and takes ages. It's something I really hate about this game. Even worse, if you pick up too many items, you can't even run, and it literally becomes torture at that point because you can't even fast travel either. The map in open world games is so important. Sadly, Starfield tried to be insanely ambitious and it's backfired. Quality over quantity is something I've always believed in. Expand on the main planets in the game. Give us transport vehicles and stop boasting about giving us hundreds of planets that most people aren't even going to bother exploring. Looking at how well Cyberpunk has improved over the years, I do have hope that maybe Starfield can do the same, but for now, exploring planets is not worth your time. Immersion. Okay, I know I said I wasn't going to bore you with the loading screen rant, but I saw this really interesting video recently which showed that once you land on a planet in your ship, the planet is fully loaded in at this point. The loading screen you get when you leave your ship is utterly pointless and isn't even needed. So why is it there? Just taking this one loading screen out of the game would actually make quite a big difference. Some people think Starfield isn't actually an open world game due to how many loading screens we have and how the map is divided. And I've got to say, I do disagree. Just because you have to sit through loading screens doesn't mean this isn't an open world game, but the immersion really does suffer because of it. The Red Dead Redemption 2 comparison is a great example of how to do immersion correctly. In that game, it never feels like you leave the world, as there's barely any screens to look at when you're in shops and purchasing items, and the only time you'd see a loading screen is when you're fast travelling. It was a great way of keeping you engaged in the game. With Starfield, give us as few menus as possible. Try and keep us in the actual game world for as long as possible before shoving a menu or loading screen in our face. This is how you make a game truly immersive. And for Christ's sake, it's 2024. Surely we should be seeing less loading screens now, not more than we had on last gen. So sadly, overall, the open world in Starfield falls short and remains awful. It could have been something amazing, but I do think the idea of hundreds of detailed planets was a bit too ambitious. If they had focused on a handful of planets, given us transport vehicles, allowed us to land on planets manually in our ships, and cut out loading screens unless we were fast travelling, I think this open world would have been 10 times better. But to be honest with you, there are lots of things I would change about this game, and I would love to see your ideas in the comment section down below, as I'm sure you have better ideas than me. Leave your best ideas down below on how to improve Starfield, and what I'll do is show and talk about your comments in a future video. So if you would like to see my full Starfield breakdown video where we discuss all the problems with this game, which is brutally honest, make sure to click the card on screen to check out that video. It's definitely worth watching. Thank you guys for watching as always, and have a great rest of your day.